a team nobody wanted to play. And then they did this, and it was embarrassing.
So the embarrassment served up by the Lions, like I saw in this game, probably the most useful instance of a mid-game coaching interview ever. When I mean, God, like I didn't realize that Dan Campbell was just gonna say it that bluntly, but of course Dan Campbell was gonna say it that bluntly. He basically was like, look, yes, we've been eliminated. Yes, the Seahawks beat the Rams earlier today, but guess what? We don't want them to make the playoffs. And then one of his receivers caught a ball with his grundle.
Yes, I did see
and
that.
It feels like this is
St. Brown, yeah.
This is, St. Brown. I was going to make an even grosser joke about Brown, but you can fill in the blanks.
Yeah, you don't have to.
But the point is, the idea that the Lions played this hard is any amount of this, the mythology I'm beginning to spin for you here around the Lions doing this. Does any of that sort of resonate or touch you in a way that hits you in your feels a bit, or no?
No, they played hard. I mean, teams play hard most of the time. I think it's unusual when they don't, even when you aren't in contention, in part because nobody's job is really guaranteed and you're looking to put on good tape for other people or whatever. So I'm not surprised they play hard. And then there's the idea that you're playing against Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay and everybody's watching. I'm not shocked that they played hard.
That's true.
They should also still be very disappointed. I think if one team that should be disappointed in this season, given how it started, I think it's the Lions. Or, well, not how it started, but how at the peak they were the hottest team in football at one point, and everyone was all impressed with the Lions. They had come around. They should be more disappointed given where they were at this season. This is the high watermark, or last week was the high watermark for the Packers. They're just going on a late season run. They had given up, or we had all given up on them. They had no expectations. I honestly should not be as surprised as I am by how embarrassingly badly they played tonight.
No, it's a good reminder that not only that NFL players who have little job security while playing in front of 50 million people probably are going to try reasonably hard, but also a good reminder that, I guess feeling hatred for your enemies so much that their failure does not entirely cover up all of your own personal insecurities is a thing. This is where I wonder just how much the Rodgers Schadenfreude, not that Dan Campbell has ever said the word Schadenfreude before in his life, but the idea that what happens to Aaron Rodgers now? Can they at the very least hang his scalp up and be this is how this what happens from here, honestly, given the way that this just ended?
Nothing. I think the Packers come back the same with pretty much the same core group, and they're going to take another run at it and probably be a little bit more successful. And with the Lions, I think this is the college bowl type of situation where it's you end the year on a big win, so it feels good, but you aren't any closer to your ultimate goal. So they seem like they've gotten better. They were a lot of people's darling because of Hard Knocks and all that stuff, and they made a good run. They were impressive. They have something to build on, I guess. But if they come out next year and get their asses beat all over again, like we're accustomed to seeing, this whole foundation that we are pretending we all see, it's gonna mean nothing. I'm sorry. Is that too negative?
You just reduced Sunday Night Football, the last game of the NFL regular season. You reduced it to the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Isn't it? I mean, isn't it? Maryland, University of Maryland, Duke's Mayo Bowl champs. Shout out Coach Locks. He's doing a hell of a job there, getting in lots of good players.
I was going to say, now that I think about it, being coached by Dan Campbell kind of does feel like having a giant tub of mayonnaise poured on you, I suppose, in one regard.
You think all the 5-star recruits that religiously listen to this podcast were moved by my pitch to join Coach Locks and Terps? We're pretty good. We're coming. I'm telling you. Watch out, Big Ten.
Show a photo. Show a photo of Domonique's coach getting mayo dumped on him at the very end here. It is beautiful. The viscosity.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. This back to the Packers and the Lions for one last. We won't talk about either of these teams for a long time.
That's right.
I think
sign the yearbooks now.
Yeah. I feel like the Lions will feel happy, and Detroit Lions fans are going to be hey, we got something here. We're building. So I'm sorry for raining on your parade. You should be excited about that. The Packers, on the other hand, the way Aaron Rodgers played, and like even during this run where they were winning games, Aaron Rodgers was showing glimpses of Aaron Rodgers' past, but he wasn't Aaron Rodgers' past. A full season. And I know he was back-to-back MVP because I was telling people, chill out. He's not that bad already. He was back-to-back MVP, but he's had a full season where he can be himself, or the self that we recognize, less and less often.
Yeah, no, it's that God, no, Dan Campbell never says the word schadenfreude. I am going to do a thing you obviously expect from me, which is to quote country music, but he's not as good as he once was, but he is as good once as he ever was. The issue is that doesn't really happen all that often anymore, I guess, which is my long way of saying, my long way of saying that I think we just started the Aaron Rodgers retirement news cycle. I think we just did that accidentally.
Nice. Can we go to the next stuff now?
Sorry. Yeah. I don't know if I need Bill Barnwell more than I need him right now, Domonique. A lot has happened. Steve Kornacki's stealing his valor, drawing up numbers that he's not calculating himself on NBC. It's ridiculous. They have fake Fugazi Barnwell on NBC. Is what they're trying to do.
I will not mention his name. Doesn't deserve any more play. We got the man here, so why talk about the wannabe?
Absolutely.
I would like to be Steve Kornacki in terms of compensation and national television exposure, but otherwise, I know exactly what you mean.
Well, roll up those sleeves anyway, Barnwell, because Alabaster has some questions for us.
That's right.
Oh, great.
Our first question. Heading into the AFC playoffs, who do you have more confidence in? The Chiefs, the Bengals, or the Bills?
Ooh. So, I mean, I'm going to say the Chiefs off top here because they did a little dance that I think I last saw on TikTok from Armenia at like a wedding. They just did that.
Yeah, in the red zone.
Scored in the red zone.
And they got called back. It got called back. Yeah, I think I have this problem with Patrick Mahomes where it's a real blinder that it's hard for me to see other things. I was made aware of this problem when they went into the Super Bowl against the Bucs and had no real offensive line. And I know that line play matters. And I still was like, you know what? Patrick Mahomes is going to do that thing. And I know that I have this problem. I know that I have Patrick Mahomes goggles on, and I don't care. Like, I think the right answer, or maybe not the right answer, but the easier to support answer with like traditional football logic is like the team that hasn't lost since week 9. That's the team that you like. The team that also beat the Chiefs the last 3 times they played them. That's the team that you should choose. This team is the Bengals, the team that actually went to the Super Bowl last year. Like, that is the team we should trust. Nah, we got Patrick Mahomes, a first-round bye, and an easier road. I got to go with that, man.
I was actually going to surprise pick the Bengals, but you kind of laid out the entire argument for me. So
Good job,
all
Dominique.
I'm going to do is just kind of ride on what Dominique said and just pick the Bengals. Like, yes, of course, we should pick the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. They get one fewer game. They have a coach who is throwing stuff out there for no reason, otherwise just to, I guess, troll opposing defenses into thinking they're going to have more stuff like that on during the playoffs.
Truly. Is that the motive, by the way?
No,
just like
it can't be. Like, I am a big fan of like doing one designed quarterback run to get people thinking about it. However, this is like, what's the message he's sending to them? We will do anything, so you got to practice everything? Like, no, that play was so absurd that the opposing coaches is going to look at him like, oh, okay, all right, moving on. Let's take that out of the clip. Like, what can they do with that?
They have to prepare a counter dance defensive scheme. Your defense must also involve dancing. What
happens when they rotate counterclockwise? Coming out of the huddle. That is the mystery here. But just, I mean, to be fair, this is a team that in the Super Bowl, I believe on 4th and 1 against the 49ers, ran a spinner play that Eric Bieniemy said was from the 1949 Rose Bowl. So if
right.
anyone is going to use this as like the basis for a goal line formation or offensive attack in the postseason, I guess it is the Kansas City Chiefs.
I mean, they were kind of unusually lined up even after the spin. So I guess maybe you need to spend 2 minutes in practice, making sure everyone knows where to line up in case they come back out with that. But I think the real like headline of this first conversation we're having about the AFC playoffs is that nobody picked the Bills. And like preseason, the Bills, and like even early in the season, the Bills looked like and were being talked about as if they had a chance of going undefeated. I think we have to obviously acknowledge that the tragedy with Damar Hamlin is he's doing a lot better, but it also has robbed them of the opportunity to have the first round bye, which is significant. And it also like robs them of the opportunity to have a home championship round. So all that matters and all that weighs into the fact that they also aren't playing all that great.
Yeah, that's kind of the tough part. And like, I feel bad saying it because, of course, like, who could possibly play great after what happened over the past week? But it did take 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns for them to beat the Patriots yesterday. And granted, like, those still count. They did a great job. The Patriots allowed 2 special teams touchdowns, which got Bill Belichick extra mad on that trip back to New England, which I feel like everything about the last month has been just what can we do to make Bill Belichick as furious as possible at any given time. But like the offense has been inconsistent. The defense, even before the tragedy with Damar Hamlin, was banged up in the secondary. I lost Von Miller for the whole year. I think the argument for the Bengals is that they are the healthiest team of these 3 teams heading into the postseason.
We can't talk about the Bills, though, without talking about everyone's favorite topic, Josh Allen's red zone interceptions. He threw another one. I think
so leading the league now, right?
Somebody was crawling around near his legs, and he threw, I would say a jump ball, but I mean, they didn't even have to jump. He just threw it right to him. And it's gonna, I've been pro Josh Allen to the degree that you can be. I've been pro Josh Allen red zone turnovers because it's like, hey, you can't tame that wild Bronco. So I guess I should just accept that that's coming with it.
If you can't handle me at my red zone interception, you don't deserve me at my flick of the wrist touchdown to Stephon Diggs on the left side for like a 50-yard bomb.
It does seem like that is the trade-off you have to make. Now, remember, for years, Josh Allen's thing was he never turned the ball over in the red zone. So do you think this is an actual skill or problem with the skill, or is it just kind of the randomness of having, 2 or 3 months that go awry in the red zone?
I mean, the red zone part of it, I think, is just a modifier that we've decided to add on recently because that's where he's throwing these turnovers. Like, I think it just boils down to, like, it's Josh Allen. He does crazy things. He attempts crazy things, and they work a lot of the times. And then when they don't work, you're like, how could you imagine it? It feels like for every play that we see or every interception, weird, like boneheaded interception we see from him, we could find almost the identical play where it works like 3 or 4 other times, the same decision in a similar situation. So you just ride with it, I guess. It seems like it's a pretty fun roller coaster.
Okay, but we talked about the Bengals to start this. Do you think Joe Burrow is playing any worse or has any lower of a ceiling than Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen do, given what we've seen from him over the past 2 months of winning football?
Lower of
Burrow.
Go ahead.
Burrow after the game, just the human element here, right? As we talk about all of the confidence that these various teams are describing, he does the thing where, and this is now like, it's a bit, but it's not a bit. It's him smoking the cigar. It's him saying, my championship window is my entire career. It's the stuff that like, he's just too good at it at this point, Domonique. And I just wonder if we're getting to the other side of like the little much Joe.
I mean, the only time, so it'll never be a little much Joe for me, but I hope he doesn't believe it. Like, I hope he believes it
right.
74%. Like, I think the projecting this confidence, like, it's fun, it's cocky. I'm sure it plays well in his locker room, and I'm sure that it like imbues the rest of his team with a level of confidence. So like, I would even make the argument that the arrogance has a strategic value to them, but don't start believing it. because you know what happens when you start believing it is you start making throws like Josh Allen. And I don't think that your team is going to survive nearly as well as the Bills have with you trying to do things, because he's not Josh Allen physically, at least.
I just admire the confidence to smoke a cigar and not feel like you look like an idiot, let alone saying all the stuff
Yeah.
Joe Burrow said after this game. And like, why wouldn't Joe
Yeah.
Burrow say that stuff? He won a national title when he was counted out of LSU. He took the Bengals, who we were writing off each week during the postseason last year, within one Aaron Donald miracle half of winning the Super Bowl last year with the same terrible offensive line that Patrick Mahomes had in that blowout loss to the Buccaneers a couple of years ago. Like, Joe Burrow should be that confident because he's kind of backed it up pretty much every single time outside of the Super Bowl for the past 2 years.
Yeah, the big problem. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, like, the big problem that we had with them last year was like how often Joe Burrow was under pressure. And as of late, that has not been a concern. And I think it's part the O-line. I think it's also part Joe Burrow being wise enough to make the decisions and get rid of the ball and not fall into the trap of that you have to win the game on every single play. They have a defense that's frankly, in my view, overachieving for the talent that they have. And it seems also consistent. So, like, yeah, you got big time great players that at any point can break the game open. So it would be foolish for him to be like, all right, well, 2nd and 10, I got to convert it right now. Like, no, actually, 3rd and 12 ain't too bad. You might hit that, or you might wait till the next time you get the ball because your defense is pretty good. He's a smart player.
Can I show you the future? Can I get the crystal ball going for you?
Oh, yeah.
AFC Championship game. Bengals are down 4 points. There's 30 seconds to go. It's 3rd and goal from the 8-yard line. The Bengals huddle up and they start spinning on the Chiefs. They pull the Chiefs' own spin game ahead of them. Andy Reid's flummox doesn't know what to do. Joe Burrow throws for a touchdown. Andy Reid is so embarrassed he has to retire. That is the ultimate ending for Joe Burrow. If he does that, he can smoke a cigar on the field during the Super Bowl, in my book.
Yeah, not after they win the Super Bowl.
No,
during the Super Bowl.
In the middle of the game.
Yeah, on the sideline.
Under center. Not on the sideline. Under center.
Just sticking out of the helmet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Man. I think
I was trying to smoke a cigar with my friend's dad, like at a fire. Like he lives in the suburbs in New York State, and I almost passed out.
What?
Like I'm not built for this. I am not built for this. TM.
Were you offered the cigar? Did you ask for a cigar?
No, it was like, hey, we're just some dudes smoking cigars. That's what we do. We're all cool. And I'm like, yeah, I know how to do this. And I'm like, oh, I feel woozy.
The Chargers also feel woozy. And my question for you on that is, did Brandon Staley ruin their playoff chances or their chance of making a playoff run by playing a starter in a meaningless Week 18 game?
This was conspicuous, at least to the internet. And I don't know if there's an explanation that you guys have heard, because I know Brandon Staley, of course, to be admittedly his own roller coaster of an analytics phenomenon. But this thing feels old school in a way that is just bizarre to me.
Brandon Staley has had his ups and downs this year, like you said, Pablo. Certainly, I think the throne he was put on as our new leader, the analytics guru, the one who was chosen.
Is this your king, Bill Barnwell?
Has not really kind of been my king so much this year. He's been kind of conservative on 4th down, but that's fine. You can leave that aside. There's all different arguments you can make. He trusts the defense, whatever. It's been fine. They made it to the playoffs this year. But here's my problem with this. The argument Brandon Staley made for this before the game was that the Chargers were going to play their starters for part of this game to keep up the momentum they had from their winning streak heading into the postseason, which, again, not something I'm particularly inclined to agree with, but whatever. Here's the problem. You lost. You lost to the Russell Wilson Broncos. Like, you can't play we got to keep this up and keep it going. You can't do that and then lose.
Honestly,
That's like the worst whammy of the whole situation to me.
that's not the worst. The worst is that he probably lost some players. More important, like losing the game is
right.
one thing.
Mike Williams
losing
limping.
Yeah, losing potential, or not even losing, even if they're there, but like diminishing the value that can be offered by your players in the next round is stupid. The whole momentum argument is an interesting one. By interesting, I mean stupid, because I had this fight.
I didn't say that. You did.
Yeah, I had this fight on Get Up last week, and it really, really was a difficult one, because then I got to the point where I was asking, like, well, should number one overall seeds then throw the game so that they don't have to be forced to have a bye because they don't want to lose the momentum? It's just such a stupid thing, particularly in this sport. Like, this is a different type of sport. If you believe in momentum, I'll even accept that it's a thing that you can have. All right. You know what's worse than losing momentum? Losing your players. So don't put them in the game, because they cannot carry on that momentum if they are freaking limping. So it's just dumb. It's a stupid thing, and they're stupid.
So the stupidity manifested in a couple of specific injuries we should mention. Mike Williams getting carted off, unable to walk, needed to be helped into transportation out of the game. Kenneth Murray, the linebacker, had to leave the game, questionable to return. Joey Bosa left the game earlier. He is an incredibly important defensive player. We don't know why he left exactly. Austin Eckler took a huge hit as well. Like, just risks damage that you incurred because they played in a game that literally, Bill, had no impact on the actual standings.
And here's the other part of this. Like, if this were the Chiefs, if this were the Texans, just two random teams who have had random injury histories in the past, you'd say whatever. This is the Chargers. Like, we've seen this for a decade now. Teams, seasons, stars ruined by injuries. Like, yes, I know Brandon Staley wants to get past that. He wants to not be the same old Chargers. You're opening up the door to become the same old Chargers again. Don't do that to yourself to beat the Russell Wilson Broncos that are probably trying to lose or not caring about winning, just want to put on a good show for Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh or whoever else is going to go work there. Like, that's the part that I keep getting at. It's like, there was nothing to gain by doing this, and they still went ahead and did it.
This is not a very interesting conversation to have, because I don't gotta
I'm
go.
sorry.
No, I'm not knocking you. You did a great job. There's nowhere else for me to go. Like, I just want to say the same thing you just said again with different words. Like, there's Pablo. Can you construct an argument for the other side?
All I got is just talking about a petard being hoisted. It just feels like hoisted on your own needle.
They better win.
The chest of
they
your
better win next week, because you look
Seriously.
real dumb. And then maybe Sean Payton is looking.
But this is. But I just realized Domonique, you asked me for a theory. Brandon Staley, he wants a new base. He's not here for the Barnwells anymore.
It's true.
He's going Dan Campbell.
Yeah,
he's going all the way in the other direction. That's smart. That's smart.
It's stupid.
Play both the wings, push them together. Now you're the center.
Well, let's push this forward a tiny bit to next week's game, because they're playing the Jaguars, who are, to your point, Domonique, they got the momentum. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL. How do you think that this drastically changes how you're going to view that game? Because I think coming into this week, we would have thought the Chargers were the better team.
Yeah. I mean, drastically is subjective, but it changes. Bosa's availability or effectiveness, like, is hugely important. Mike Williams, like, I feel like when I'm watching them play, he's the one making, like, not Keenan Allen, he's the one making the important, critical catches. So yeah, this matters a lot. And also, like, there's players who did not get carted off or are not reporting any injuries. Like, it's just also the, like, attrition of the season.
Yeah.
The value of a week off is so huge to guys who week in and week out bang into each other. And I just can't quite wrap my head around how this has degraded the team, even outside of the like big names that we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen caught a touchdown pass in the fourth quarter of this game after Mike Williams had already been injured. So it wasn't even like Brandon Staley saw his number 1A wide receiver go out injured and said, "Oh no, we have to do something about this." Keenan Allen was in the game, I believe, with Chase Daniel at quarterback, which tells you that he was not even, after seeing the actual injuries play out, changing his mind. And then from the Jaguars side of this, though, like the momentum argument, like, yes, they won the division, they feel great. They played bad for pretty much that entire game. Like on offense, they were a mess for that entire game. They kept kicking field goals. They were losing to a Joshua Dobb led Titans team for most of this game and got bailed out by a pretty close fumble call that turned into a touchdown. Like, yes, they had that momentum, but it's not like they played well and you feel great. Like they're out playing their best football heading into the postseason. They're not.
Yeah. I was all like, "Oh, the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, yes!" And then it's like, "Oh wait, but is this the version of the Jaguars we're gonna get? In which case, congrats,
But if it's
hoist the banner." But yeah.
but you're really into hoisting stuff on
he's a
today's show,
hoister.
Pablo.
He's a big hoister.
Guys,
A big
I
hoist guy.
cannot stop hoisting.
Were you
tonight.
also hoisting stuff in that party in upstate New York? Was that what the party was about?
Let's move on to the NFC. And my question for you all is, who do you view as the favorite? The Eagles or the 49ers?
You guys know I'm a Brock Purdy guy. On this fake television show, it's well established. I'll say it.
Oh, don't say it. Please. It's already been bleeped out like 3 episodes now. It's not going to get on the 4th one, Pablo. Oh, come on.
Oh, gosh.
Can't bleep a whisper. It's really hard to do.
That's such an odd reason to be rooting for a person.
It's just incidental. It's not causal. It's just incidental.
It absolutely is causal. It's the only thing you know or care about him is that particular story. You bring it up every time you get a chance, buddy.
Pablo, let me ask you a question. How do you feel about Nick Foles?
Talk about a good petard. I mean, that guy.
Oh man. All right. So I don't know. The answer to this question is really hard to answer. I think the line I've been hiding behind is like, if you believed in the 49ers before, then you should believe in them now, because there is no difference between Purdy and Garoppolo, with the exception of the fact that I think the uncertainty around Brock Purdy gives me a little bit more optimism. So maybe that should put them up above the Eagles, who do seem to be hitting like a rough stretch based on injuries and performance. They're in a bad spot, but I think I'm going to stick with the Eagles because Jalen Hurts is, in my view, that good. And he's going to be healthy, and they're going to go back to their quarterback run game, and they're going to win. If they play each other eventually.
Bill, did you notice that Domonique said that he was cowering behind this take, his Niners take? He was like holding it as a shield, afraid for his own safety.
Domonique is just fending off the hordes of people who are coming at him with, "You were wrong about Brock Purdy. He's actually a superstar. Thinks he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo." A take that Pablo, I imagine, would be endorsing as a BCP supporter.
That's right.
Which, to be fair, like,
down with BCP.
We haven't seen Brock Purdy struggle really over the course of this 5-week stretch. Like, Brock Purdy has been kind of consistently really good.
Multiple touchdowns, 6 straight weeks. Only rookie, or since Justin Herbert, I believe, is what Alabaster just laid down there.
And that was before Justin Herbert had jello ribs, according to our friend Mina Kimes. I believe it's the term she used. I think the 49ers are the better pick here because I am legitimately concerned about Jalen Hurts' health and this Eagles offense. You saw them against the Giants today, and the Giants are playing their backups with nothing to play for. The Eagles offense looked bad. They were 1 for 5 in the red zone. There was one designed run for Jalen Hurts in this game, a sneak for 2 yards, which of course he still has to get a sneak in every game. It's just what Jalen Hurts does. But this offense has a different ceiling if Jalen Hurts is not going to be doing any designed runs. And yes, maybe in 2 weeks he'll be healthy, but he didn't look 100% today. The game plan didn't look like they trusted him to be 100% today. And we don't know that he's not going to re-aggravate or further injure his shoulder when he comes back in the postseason. I think there's a legitimate concern with the Eagles we saw over the first 12 weeks of the year, where it was Jalen Hurts playing at an MVP level. We're not going to get that version of that offense in the postseason.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer, but I refuse to move off of my original take. That's
fine.
That's like I've married it. That's the type of guy I am. I'm committed to the Eagles, and I'm not leaving you Eagles until next season. So I
It's
love you.
you on your petard being monogamous.
Oh yeah,
That's right.
completely.
I appreciate that.
I mean, that was my
It's romantic. in
my
its own way.
my conference final pick was Eagles 49ers. So I'm rooting for them both, but I had the Eagles get into the championship. So my petard knows what it's doing.
Great petard. Let's move on to a little game.
Ooh, double drink.
Little game of Would You Rather. All right, guys. First, Would You Rather?
Mhm.
If you were the Bears, would you rather trade the number 1 pick to build around Justin Fields, or trade Justin Fields and draft a quarterback?
So it is very funny how the Bears got this pick, by the way, right?
Sure
We should just
is.
acknowledge that it's very funny that Lovie Smith's revenge, as reports were coming out that he was about to be fired, was like, I'm going to win this game. And yes, handed the Bears the number 1 pick, giving the Texans the number 2 pick because they are 3-13-1, which is a hilarious margin of missing out on whoever the hell this number 1 pick is going to be.
Also, Domonique, do you want to comment on the Jeff Saturday-led Colts losing to a Texans team that was actively incentivized to lose and then won anyway?
Jeff Saturday
Pointing
also
to your head.
also incentivized to lose. Good win, Jeff Saturday.
Oh, finally
Played
converted
y'all.
Dominique to the process.
Played
We've
y'all.
done it.
Just played
We've
y'all.
done it.
He wanted to show you, you know what? We're better than the Vikings, but we're also smarter than them. So we're gonna get a big lead and we're gonna throw it away because we want to get a draft pick.
Yep, they knew their ceiling. Yep, playing for the long term, playing for the future.
I like that we appeared to get an Italian accent from Dominique at the end of that sentence. We're gonna get a draft pick. It's great. I loved it. I think the Bears should trade away this pick because Justin Fields is good. Is there any other sentiment we should discuss here?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you can get for Justin Fields, I guess, and the difference that you see in Justin Fields. And I mean, I guess
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young is the kind of undersized quarterback that was going to be the number 1 overall pick. So I mean, I generally think I feel like even if they didn't have a quarterback, I might argue that they should trade away this pick and try to build a team. Like it's easier said than done. I don't know if I would have the balls to do it if I actually had was the GM there. But in my view, like I've come to really sincerely believe that the quarterback has got to be like a mid piece or a last piece. Bringing a quarterback into that situation, with the exception of like some all-time greats, no matter who you are, you're gonna fail. So like Justin Fields will be given a better chance if they can put some stuff around him with 2 or 3 or 4 extra first-round picks over the next couple seasons if they trade this away.
I mean, 3 is the number that comes to mind for me. That was what the Dolphins got from the 49ers when they moved up from 12 to 3 and got Trey Lance. The Texans at 2, you figure, want to draft a quarterback. So anyone who wants to get ahead of the Texans and get the quarterback they want at 1 is going to have to pay a premium. Like, I don't think you trade this pick for whatever the best offer is, no matter what it is. Like, if you're only getting a first-round pick and a future 3, then yeah, draft Will Anderson, get your edge rusher, you'll be fine. But if you're getting 3 first-round picks, this is a team that did not draft well for most of Ryan Pace's tenure, especially during the latter half of his tenure, a team that traded away a first-round pick to move up and get Justin Fields in the first place, and a team that, realistically, I don't know what they would get for Justin Fields in a trade. Like,
I don't either.
If you're getting 2 or 3 first-round picks for Justin Fields, maybe that's a different story, but I think you're probably getting a lot more for the pick than you are for Justin Fields himself.
Agreed.
I just want to congratulate Dominique and Alabaster, actually. Well, maybe they did this so that I would be forced to bring this up, but I am truly impressed that their answer collectively was not Justin Fields should do what we have been telling him to do since the beginning of the season and demand the trade himself, because the Chicago Bears actually turned out to be the worst team in the entire NFL, which was a take that should be honored.
I mean, it's not.
It wasn't wrong.
It wasn't out on the limb, and just the Bears seem to be the only fan base of really bad team that took offense to it. I mean, there were lots of other teams that we put in that same category, and their fans were reasonable. Like, yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Bears fans like, hey, how dare you? Blah, 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 blah. Nah, we were right. You're the worst team in football. And just because you won week 1, because you played a game in a bowl of soup, does not mean that you are a good football team. We also should correct one thing, is we assume that Bryce Young was the one. I saw Alabaster put a sheet up there that says Mel Kiper has Will Levis above Bryce Young right now. And I assume that's like about his size, right? It's about not Bryce Young, because I don't know. I haven't been breaking it down, but my assumption is that people believe Bryce Young is more talented, but in dealing with the rigors of an NFL season, having a more talented guy who's not healthy all the time is not worth it.
Now, Domonique, you brought up a good point. The Bears did win that game in week 1 in a bowl of soup, and Bryce Young is not very tall. We have to worry. Is he going to be able to stay afloat in the bowl of soup if he plays in Chicago? That's a legit concern. Justin Fields is tall, does not have the same issue there. Big difference depending on where you're playing. Now, in Houston, playing in a dome, no issue whatsoever.
All right, last one. If you were the Broncos, would you rather have Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh coach your team?
Easy answer. I mean, I don't know. Pablo, is there setup required for this? Like, this seems like the easiest. Sean Payton, like the actual Super Bowl champ who actually shows ability, or not even ability, but the desire, and I guess also ability to not piss everybody you work with off and actually stay at a place for extended period of time in the NFL. So I don't know. I think that he actually brings some value. I don't know how much, but he brings some value to the offensive, to the quarterback development and offensive game plan that I'm not sure that I believe that Harbaugh brings. Yeah, like it seems obvious. He has a movie made about him, where the King of Queens.
He's been played by
has not been played by Kevin James. That is, I guess, a benefit in Jim Harbaugh's corner.
Bill's been. I just want to, for the podcast audience, just truly disgusted by Domonique.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think that we can have a healthy debate about this. Domonique setting the table as it's beyond debate already on Debatable, particularly egregious to me, because there's a big difference. First off, like the idea that we're just discounting Jim Harbaugh, former NFL quarterback, the guy who coached Andrew Luck at Stanford, is saying, oh, he can't do anything to help the offense. Like, I think he's probably an okay offensive coach at the very least at the NFL level. Maybe not as good as Sean Payton, but the difference between these two guys that is very significant is that they cost a lot different prices. Sean Payton costs you at least a first-round pick, probably more, maybe even 2 first-round picks for a team that already traded away a lot of first-rounders to get Russell Wilson and has that 1 first-rounder remaining from the Bradley Chubb trade. Jim Harbaugh costs Walmart like a couple of weeks at Christmas. Like there isn't going to be the same draft pick compensation going back to Michigan, because they don't get draft picks. They just get money. And money is not an issue for this Broncos organization that just didn't they just resod the field for week 18? Like, they're deliberately showing you, hey, look how much money we have. We're just messing this field up for 1 week because we want to. That is where the Broncos are at right now in terms of how much money they're willing to spend. So I think the fact that they can get Jim Harbaugh for just money, they can use that first-round pick to get something to actually help Russell Wilson on the football field, is more meaningful to me than getting Sean Payton off the field and not having that first-round pick to go get a valuable player. I think the player is more valuable to me than the difference between those two coaches.
I would be so insulted now realizing all of that if I was Jim Harbaugh and they still hired Sean Payton.
Or if they hire Kevin James to play me in the movie about the Broncos hiring a head coach here. The Russell Wilson Reclamation Project movie.
I think that you made a great argument. However, what is the cost of hating the person who coaches your team? That is worth a couple first-round picks. or having your general manager want to harm your head coach. That is the difference. That is the difference. So I think you're right. The difference in the value of them as coaches is not bigger than 1 or 2 first-round picks. So I think we all would agree that Sean Payton is a better head coach. I don't think he's so much better that it'll be worth giving up 2 first-round picks. You're right. I do think, however, if you add the asshole tax on, then give me a little SP. That's all I'm saying.
First off, I love that Sean Payton was suspended for a year for the Bountygate scandal, where he was paying his players to commit crimes, and you were still like, yeah, he's still not the asshole in this conversation compared to Jim Harbaugh. I like that. First off,
well,
you're not.
Well framed. Yeah, exactly. That was going to be the next question. You framed that quite well, but do you disagree?
No, do you disagree? Not really. But here's the other part of this. You just have to be smart and engage your organization accordingly. You just have to hire a slightly larger asshole than Jim Harbaugh to be part of the organization, and then you're good.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do is just hire a second person to focus the aggression and anger at, and then Jim Harbaugh looks like he's a quaint choir boy by example.
Okay.
I said choir boy.
It's like a terrible rapper. Choyer boy? NBA Choyer boy?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, then it's the whole Russell Wilson thing.
Yeah, he's in office.
I didn't want to say.
Which, I don't know. So you're married to Russell Wilson for the foreseeable future. So who do you think? And maybe you should make your decision based on who you think cooperates better with Russell Wilson. But who do you think? Is it Jim Harbaugh, noted? And me, as also admitted asshole, I feel like I don't mean this disrespectfully. I just mean sometimes it's hard for us to get along with people. So do you think you'll get the best out of Russell with noted asshole Jim Harbaugh or Sean Payton, who is probably the reason why quarterbacks the size of Russell Wilson are getting chances in the league, because he made it happen with Drew Brees? Like, it seems like it all adds up as that makes more sense than anything else.
Russell Wilson is a tryhard whose only solution to solving any problem is to try harder. Jim Harbaugh is a tryhard whose espoused philosophy to solve any problem is to try harder, and also maybe just not eat chicken because it's a scared animal, whatever.
Nervous bird.
Nervous bird.
For my entertainment, at the very least, I want to see them compete with one another to see who will try the hardest to fix the Denver Broncos.
That never works.
I've earned that. It might, you know what? It might not, but they hired a nice guy by all accounts, and Nathaniel Hackett, and that didn't work either. So go in the opposite direction.
Okay.
God.
Well, also, if you're looking for someone who's not nice, maybe it's the guy who was paying, as you said, paying his players to commit crimes. Not a nice guy. Again, Sean Payton beats you on all angles, Jimmy. All angles.
It's just gonna suck when you pay a first rounder or two to acquire Sean Payton, and then have to pay a couple more to get rid of Russell Wilson in a giant trade to get him off of your team. It's gonna be a problem for your Denver Broncos.
Picks don't matter. We discovered this. The Sean Payton, McVay strategy now. Things are different. Here's what you do. You trade all your future first-round picks. You mess up your cap. Maybe you win a Super Bowl, and then you're out of there before that stuff comes to pay. That's someone else's problem. That's not my problem. I work for the media now.
I wonder if Sean McVay would have quit by the time this is run.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be exciting to hear about Jeff Saturday now working as the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, now that he's proven himself with the Colts.
Oh, man. How much do you think McCown hates Jeff Saturday? That's my... Because, once Jeff got the job, he was like, yes, if he succeeds, then I can succeed. But now, if from nothing to head coach of an NFL team was at 5 before Jeff Saturday tried his hand at it, as much as I love him, and I hate to say it, it's at a 3 now. Like,
No,
really got an uphill battle.
Domonique, Josh McCown, the greatest dunking backup quarterback in NFL history, has to be sounding like an immigrant or minority parent right now. Twice as hard now because of you.
Yeah.
Twice as hard. All of this twice as hard.
Oh gosh, first time Josh McCown has ever felt like that in his life. To be clear, he's a really nice guy. Everyone loves him, including me.
Josh.
Everyone loves Josh McCown.
Looks like Guile from Street Fighter, a real person. Love Josh McCown.
That's true. That's really impressive.
Absolutely, Sonic Boom.
Sonic Boom.
Sonic Boom.
All right, Pablo, this is the time when you thank Bill for joining us, and then you
great,
transition.
Bill. Thank you for joining us.
And you
transition
us
to
Spencer.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to talk
yes,
about
Spencer Hall.
College football.
College football.
Street Fighter.
You're welcome.
Hadouken!
It is Spencer Hall season, Domonique. Is it Spencer Hall season, like coming to a close? What's the vibe right now in Spencer's layer?
The vibe right now is we're on fumes, boys. We're on fumes. This tank is below E, and we're just hoping to make it to the next gas station, which means that the manic joy of nearly being done and running on empty, we're there. We're fully there. I want everybody to keep that mindset too, because that's exactly where both teams are. Like, everyone's tired.
Yeah.
Right? Dominic, you know better than anyone else. Football, like, oh, you guys just play once a week. Yeah, once a week, buddy.
Especially with college coaches who could care less what happens to your body. And I was going to say when you're 40, they don't care what happens to your body when you're 23. So once you are over 22, maybe 23, 24, if you did some red shirting, they want you to still be in good condition. But anyway, we are at that point of the season where we're all tired, but the fans are all happy. Championship Monday, baby.
They are thrilled. They're going to light this gas station on fire. TCU, Georgia. I mean, the question that we're presented here for the podcast audience by Silent Alabaster is simple. It's, do you think TCU can hang with Georgia in the national championship game? And I'll just start this off by pointing out that they're currently Georgia is 12.5-point favorites in the ways that I guess Vegas likes to bait us into betting on things. But Spencer, I mean, what's your legally binding gambling advice?
Legally binding gambling advice. That's how I know Pablo went to Harvard. He just made up some really evil sounding.
That is so evil.
Got a whole boy. That is American elite sounding as hell right there.
Gosh.
Your legally binding free bet, prison term not included.
Yeah,
it is
put it
included.
on a deck. Yep.
Yes.
PowerPoint it.
Yeah, you just do this as a pitch, and people are like, "Yo, look, billions. We'll send billions to this." People gamble, then they have to go to jail. We own the jails. Done. Business plan.
We need a reboot because this is the saddest start to a championship
but all of
episode ever. We're in jail.
All of the metaphors
we're
feel
tired.
appropriate.
We're burning down gas stations. We got TCU going up against Georgia. Can they get it done?
Can they get it done? Yeah. No, this is my answer. Nobody else. Everybody's gonna be like, "Man, Georgia," and you're gonna see somebody will ask game day, and they'll take a little screen cap of the like G, right? Like there'll be 4 G's. And let me just be bold enough to say, TCU can win this game. They can win this game, and they can win it because the style of football they play, they're never really fully out of a game. They're not. This is an aggressive pass first team. Yes, they are capable of running, but when they run, they do something pretty well, which is use the quarterback as a run threat. And when they use the quarterback as a run threat, as everyone knows, you mess up the numbers in your run fits, and you open up passing opportunities downfield. I have a joke that has been not a joke several times with TCU, which is don't pay attention to what happens in the first half, because sometimes they might be up and sometimes they might be down. And at the end of the game, they're always within 3 points. That's just how it seems to work this year.
The funny thing about Georgia is, like, I've been transparent this whole season, is that I parachute in for the big games. But this game, I've actually done a little research. And the shocking thing for Georgia is they kind of have if they have any problems, they have the opposite problem of everyone else in the country, is that they can't find enough guys on the back end. They got guys and guys and guys and guys at the front end. So like finding big, physical, fast, agile defensive linemen and linebackers and offensive line. The offensive line is incredible too. They got plenty of them. That's not the issue. The question is, do they have the secondary based on what we saw in the Ohio State game? Despite the fact that Ohio State has probably, I'm guessing 4 first-round picks eventually. Like maybe not this coming year, but eventually all of their receiving core will be first-round picks because that's what happens for them in Alabama. But the back end hasn't looked that sharp for Georgia when there's no pressure being provided by that front. So that's kind of the big question for me. If Duggan and the Horned Frogs can stay in this game, it's going to be because they're breaking Georgia off with some big plays, which surprisingly Georgia gives up more than you would expect for a dominant team like this.
But the question of whether Georgia is breaking down now more than they have all year, Spencer. I mean, here's a stat, right? 8 players have had 100+ yards from scrimmage against Georgia this season. 4 of them came in the last 2 games. That was LSU and that was Ohio State. And Ohio State, as Domonique just said, is the more troubling one. What are we supposed to take away from the state of the dogs right now?
Well, I think you're supposed to go back to where we started. This is where the team is wearing thin right now. It's wearing thin in the secondary. And this is one of those things where even I think they're big fasts, right? Jimbo Fisher likes calling, all those guys up front big fast, right? Your defensive tackles, your defensive ends who are massive, but who can still run 4.5s, just these mutants who end up at Georgia and Alabama and other elite programs. Even they're suffering a little bit. Jalen Carter didn't look 100%. He's the all-world defensive tackle last seen in the LSU game, picking up Jaden Daniels as if he were a trophy. Yeah, that dude didn't look 100%. And I am afraid to say that matters for Georgia because a player that good always matters. A guy who can turn a game with one single play matters. And if he's not 100%, then I'm iffy on Georgia's pass rush. There is one key matchup that everyone will zoom in on here, okay? And it is Kelee Ringo versus Quentin Johnston. That's it. Yeah. They are both long, rangy, strong, both very, very strong players. And I've seen people say that they don't like that matchup because it's Kelee Ringo. Kelee Ringo, I think, has a bad rap because he is the 98th percentile player, or the guy who is a sort of boomer bust player at that profile.
Corner from Georgia.
Right. Yeah. Yes. The corner from Georgia, because he can allow big plays, but he's also the guy who makes big plays. You might remember him against Alabama, returning the game sealing interception. Like, he's that guy. His timing is great. Quentin Johnston is a receiver who will get the ball. You will get the ball. So I think what Georgia has to hope is in that matchup that they will get some big plays run on them. That will happen. I think they have to hope that Kelee Ringo has the kind of game that he has where he's going to just make some timely plays, and he's going to make some big mistakes, and you hope that it comes out on Georgia's side of the ledger. That's a one-on-one matchup that if you had to boil the whole game down to me, it's that. Not like, oh, can you protect Max Duggan? He'll make things happen. He'll buy some time in the pocket. Right. That will happen. They're not going to be able to block him forever, and they're not going to run for 200 yards. Like, that's not going to happen on Georgia. You just need enough time.
My question is about everyone other than Quentin when it comes to the TCU receivers, because, and again, to be fair, I'm not watching college tape the way I'm watching NFL tape, so I'm not sure that Georgia does a lot of like double teaming or taking away your best weapon when they go up against them. This last game, it's hard to do that against Ohio State because, as I mentioned, it's likely that every guy catching a ball is a 5-star, so maybe you wouldn't do that. But in this game, that's not the case. They've got one guy that you need to stop, which the other guys could play well. So that's the real question for me, is like, not that Carter is going to give up plays here or there. Is Georgia going to sell out to stop him and then trust that the rest of their players can hold up long enough? Because it seems like Johnson having a big game is the only way that TCU, not the only way, but it's, if TCU wins, one thing that we know is going to happen is a lot of big plays from that big guy.
the found yardage that you want, okay, is those underneath routes. You want to go ahead and make some hay, getting the ball underneath to all of those guys who are in space cleared out by Quentin Johnston. That's it. And by the threat of Quentin Johnston. Right. So you want to hit some of those. The other thing too is found yardage in the form of Max Duggan scrambling, even if it's only for 4, 5, 6 yards at a time. Against K-State and against a couple of other teams, he had these like heroic, on the loose, sort of jailbreak runs. That's not going to happen here. But he can make your coverage difficult by demanding at least some attention forward towards him. If that's the case, you're going to see a little more space open up underneath, right? We're doing a lot of talking about the TCU offense, by the way. Georgia has a challenge. They have a challenge offensively, which is this: that TCU runs a 3-3-5. And running a 3-3-5, it can look like spaghetti. Like if you pull back, you can just look up and see absolutely nothing that makes sense. So what Georgia has to do is simplify that as easily as they can, which is hopefully by running the ball. But at times, TCU has looked unusually stout. Like relative to their stats, at times they've played stretches of pretty good run defense.
There was, aside from some big plays against Michigan, which I guess you can't say aside from, but I was surprised. I was the kind of blue blood believer, and I was surprised in watching that game. Like, oh, TCU's a real football team with really big guys up front. Not defensively necessarily, but they played big enough. And I don't know. I'm still hesitant to say that I can expect the same thing against Georgia because I'm brainwashed. I drink the SEC Kool-Aid. Well, I see the Georgia Bulldogs. It's like, man, they're good.
I want to lick the toad. I want to lick the toad. And yet I keep on doing the thing where I'm like, I don't know. I guess I'm the first guy in this fake television program this evening to say Stetson Bennett's name. Yeah. And I wonder where he fits into this, because what we just saw, literally after he won the game that ended 2022 and ushered in, this very strange year, we saw his head coach. We heard Kirby Smart do the thing that literally everybody who roots for Georgia has done at some point in their lives, which is like say Stetson Bennett needs to play better. And I'm just wondering, for the guy who was undefeated this season, who is like, I don't know, by some argument, reasonable, I think, one of the greatest players in the history of this storied university.
Clear out.
Spencer, where are you on it?
Yeah, I know where Spencer is, and I'm going to give him space to give Stetson some love.
I'm going to pay him a compliment by starting with a warning, which is that TCU has to make him the focus of their game plan. They do. They have to make Stetson Bennett and disturbing and confusing him the focus of their game plan. I can't think of a better compliment than that, because he has to be the target, right? Everybody's like, oh, you got to keep Kenny McIntosh from, piling up points. You got to keep Georgia from running the ball. No. That's going to be hit or miss for you, okay? You have to take the approach of Georgia's going to get theirs on the ground. We cannot let Stetson Bennett beat us either with his feet, by picking up easy first downs, which he has done consistently through his career on, second and third short. But you have to confuse him and hope that he coughs the ball up. I'm going to look brilliant here, okay? Stetson Bennett hasn't really had a bad game this year. He hasn't had the game where he's thrown 3 picks. 4 picks. He hasn't had the game.
That floor, Domonique. Look how high that floor is.
It's so high.
Yes.
That floor is higher than after you lick a toad.
Okay. So if you want to know if what you have to do, first of all, you got to lick the toad. Second, right? Once you've done that, confuse Stetson Bennett. 3, you have to roll the dice and hope that you have his one bad game this year. Because I will tell you, against Ohio State, that boy got a heater.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God. Yes.
Sick seam throw on that final drive right over the linebacker and in front of the safety in a spot where only a receiver could get it. Disgusting. I did not actually think. I don't know if you've had this experience, but I have watched him do that, and I was like, I did not know he could do that.
Well, that's the thing about him, Domonique. Yeah. It's the thing about him. Like, he keeps on. And by the way, that was a 398-yard passing game, 4 touchdowns, 1 rushing. Like, this is the that he keeps on doing.
Yeah.
And we'd be going crazy. We have all this confirmation bias that we bring into a lot of situations. If he was a highly touted player, we'd be talking about him a lot differently if he gave us that game. And it's possible that he's gotten better, because I came into the whole Stetson Bennett experience last season like, oh yeah, he's the thing holding them back. because all
Right.
the smart people told me to think that. Then I watched
Mhm.
him play, and I looked at the way he looked, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then I watched their defense play, and I was like, yeah, he's along for the ride. But I think in general, whenever we're talking about players or coaches, we do not take into account the idea that they can get better. You know, like we think that particularly in college, there's a reasonable expectation that a guy can get better from year to year. But also with Stetson Bennett, it's really hard to believe that he could get as much better as he would have to get, because he had 2 stops before he got to Georgia. Like
Oh,
he,
dude,
Yep.
he
no,
just
he
had to get good
was-
enough to get a scholarship. And now we're talking about him like he's the best quarterback in college football. Yeah. Ooh.
Well, the backstory, just to fill in the blanks here. I mean, it is the story. Like anybody who's Stetson Bennett's like real true friend, the kind of friend who tells you the truth when no one else will. I can only imagine the number of times that they told him privately, like, give it up. They have tried starting literally a half dozen other people.
All right, Alabaster.
All right, let's before
I
you
hate
guys
you.
go, let's do prediction, winners, and score.
Oh, okay.
Predictions,
I'll
winners, and
start.
score.
I'll start as
Okay.
the person who has watched the least tape. I am picking Georgia. I am picking them to win 45 to 44.
Okay, so that's an incredibly thrilling competition that you created for us. I think we should go in order of qualifications. So since you are the least qualified, means you're probably going to be right. But I'll go next, and we'll save Spencer for last. I also am a coward who's going to go with the blue blood, Georgia, and I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as you do. I'm going to go with. It's going to be the difference in this game is going to be Stetson Bennett's efficiency in the red zone. So we're going 35 because they're going to score all touchdowns, kick no field goals, come up short on the other side. TCU 27.
Wow, he has a narrative too.
Yeah, you
I
got to spin up a little nary.
I too have a narrative, which is this: everyone's out of sync. It's a different place than they're used to playing. It's a road trip. Everything's a little bit different. People are tired. Different units are thin in terms of coverage. So I think, you'll get something that to me looks a lot like Auburn, Oregon when they played. I believe that in the Cam Newton year, right? An ugly game. Ugly in the first half. Turnovers, sloppy. Then the second half will kind of go off once they figure out how to do things again. I like all right, and since nobody else is doing it, right? We'll see how many people we can get to watch this. TCU 31, Georgia 27.
Woo! I like
Whoa.
that.
I will bring this. Miami couldn't do this. The 2000s turn of the millennium Miami teams could not do this. So let's go ahead and just raise the bar high. See if Georgia could jump over it. Okay. I mean, I think they could. We're talking about coulds, but if you want a prediction where I go, how does the moonshot happen? It happens with everyone playing badly, TCU going on a run, and we end up 31-27.
I like
Frogs for the
Dang.
wildest playoff win.
I like
Spencer
that
licked
prediction.
the toad.
Like,
Spencer has licked the toad.
I like that prediction. I kind of want to switch to TCU because the idea of Georgia playing as many intense games as they did last year alone, and then coming back and doing it again this year, like it wears on you. Like it's a lot. And TCU, they didn't have the same schedule last year nor this year, so they could be peaking at the right time. I like it, but I'm not going to switch because I want Spencer to be right alone, and we can celebrate him.
I really appreciate that. But by the way, we don't talk about how impossible and improbable the thing Georgia is trying to do here.
Yeah.
We talk about how TCU has to climb the mountain. Georgia's trying to do something equally difficult. I want that on the record so that afterwards we can point to it and be like, award credit. Award credit. Don't just be like, you should have won.
That's
be
fair.
like, no, the thing you're trying to do is hard as hell.
This man is good. You see what he just did there? He justified his pick of the underdog by solidifying how much it means, because what we're doing is we're expecting the Georgia to win. So we're underappreciating how impressive it will be if they win, while also covering his ass by saying I'm the only one who picked TCU. He's smart.
Domonique, there's a word for what Spencer Hall has, and that word is moxie.
Hey, listen, athletically, that would be all I have.
I can't help but think about this is kind of sad, but like Jameson Williams last year. I mean, he's playing well and he's playing now. Like that's in the back of my mind. He was the receiver for Alabama, who I thought was the best receiver in college football. Would have been the first one taken. Tore his ACL in the championship game. He still went in the first round to the Lions, and he's just coming back in the last few weeks to play. And it's like, when I watch these games, they keep wanting to add more players or add more teams. I just get nervous, man.
Extinguished the fire at the gas station, and Domonique came back with the kerosene.
Yeah, I waited till the end of the show. This was hanging over me the whole time.
Domonique Foxworth, professional rhetorical arsonist.
There you go. That's me. I waited till the end to burn it down. It's nothing left. What am I keeping from burning down? We moved out.